We're going to look at nonsense. I'm going to give our opinions on it, and then you can tell me if you agree with that opinion. So tell me in the comments. This is the moment for you. Would you support American flags being the only flags allowed in classrooms? Let's go. Let's do it. What do you guys think? For me, it's going to be a yes. In fact, it's going to be a yes that shouldn't even be a question, something we should argue about. What other flags are we going to have anyways? The flag of Somalia? No, thank you. Should we have the flag of Israel? No, this is America. Should we have the Palestinian flag? No, this is America. Should we have the Italian flag? No, this is America. So like there's no the split second that the answer isn't, this is America, we have a problem. Because it means that you're having a double standard. You're going to be like, oh yeah, this specific nation, absolutely, they should have a flag in the American school. Plus schools, why schools? What the heck? What are you going to tell the kids? That it's good to be an American and a Somalian, but it's not good to be everything else, like a Spanish person. It doesn't make sense. So either you put every single flag on the entirety, or maybe you could say all the allies. We could put all the allies, so we don't have to put, but even then, it's going to fill the entire room. You won't be able to even move in it. So I'm going to say, this is America, put the American flag. It shouldn't even be a discussion. Given if it's a class on geography, as Baron is correctly pointing out in the chat, yeah, if it's a class on geography, you could put them on a little thing, but not the actual full-on flag, because again, good luck with that. There isn't space for it. And obviously, anything political, I don't think it belongs in the school, because the school should be a neutral ground where children are taught good manners they should be taught critical thinking. The school shouldn't think for them. And in fact, there was a school there were schools that historically pushed all of the political flags as well, and it's the totalitarian regimes. Literally, that's it, totalitarian regimes. So I'd say, don't put flags, don't put the LGBT flag, don't put the Republican flag, don't put the Democrat flag, don't put all this stuff, just put the American flag, because it's the one uniting flag. Every other flag separates, this one unites. So my as a non-American who lives in America and just sent $2,000 to my lawyer for the citizenship proceedings, I just sent him $2,000. Thank you very much. In fact, if you want to help with that, I appreciate memberships and subscriptions. You can be part of my citizenship, guys. Rants on Rumble. Come on, let's do it. Amazon Prime. Hey, for once I did a smooth transition into a call to action. How did you like that one? Anyways, no access flags, thank you. I'm just saying, as someone who's going through the citizenship, I say, yes, absolutely. That's the one thing that unifies me. I can have the Italian flag in my home. Absolutely, I will. I'll have the American flag. I'll have the Italian flag. And I'm telling you, I ordered a Sicilian flag. It just arrived. Right this second, I don't remember where I put it, but I think it's in there. It's a beautiful flag. It's yellow and red. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And it has the old ancient symbol for Sicily, the one with the 3 legs and the Medusa in the middle. It's a beautiful flag, and in my house, absolutely. I am a Sicilian, I am an Italian. I want my son to be brought up in an environment where he can be proud of being an American, but also proud of his Italian heritage and connection to ancient Rome and Sicily and all the rest of the stuff. Fantastic. But the school is a public space, in theory, at least. I know that British English and American English uses the word public and private differently, so I don't want to get confusion. I'm going to ditch that. But anyways, school is for everyone. Put the American flag in it. And if the American flag offends you, get out of the country if you're not from this country. And if you are from this country, you need professional help. You've been indoctrinated at that point. And that is my take on the flag. Keir Starmer, and he says, I'm concerned to hear of the incident at Manchester Central Mosque last night. I know this would be worrying for Muslim communities, especially during Ramadan, a time of peace and reflection. My gosh, the virtuous signaling on this man. My thanks go to the volunteers and emergency services for their quick response. To be fair, I don't know what incident is referring to, so we might have to have a look at that. It's just the language that he chooses makes me cringe every single time, because it's a constant bending the knee and basically saying, look at me. Look at me. I am so tolerant towards Muslims only, because if it's Christians or patriots, absolutely not. That's why it makes me cringe. Of course, if there was, I don't know, a freaking earthquake, if there was a flame, and yeah, obviously I don't want people to be hurt. Anyways, I think that goes without saying. Let's continue. We have provided up to £40 million. Man, we're starting strong. £40 million funding for additional security at Muslim schools and community centers, and will continue to act to ensure communities are able to live without. So here's my take of the day, my base take of the day. This man, Starmer, bent the knee. 40 million pounds, while there are British citizens that live in poverty, is, to me, a disgrace to the entire West. That's what I'm going to leave it at. That's what I'm going to leave it at, my friends. Let's continue. All right, let's do something funnier. Check this out. This is the Queen of England, ladies and gentlemen. The Queen of England, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see by this purposely and wonderfully crafted screenshot, she had a matching outfit for every iteration of the Game Boy Color that was ever created. So imagine how amazing this would have been as a planned Photoshop. They missed an incredible opportunity for probably the most epic photo shoot sessions of the royal family within British history. And I know that some of you, being the pedantics that I created, because a lot of you are monsters that I created, I know you're going to be pedantic on me, and you're going to tell me, well, there is the transparent Game Boy, yeah, and you can keep that. I'm glad she did not match that one. Anyways, regardless of that, look at this. Look at the power of matching of Her Majesty. She could have done it. It would have been. Anyways, do you have a Game Boy Color? Let's make you participate. Did you have a Game Boy Color in period? And if the answer is of course, then which one did you have? For me, I still have it. It's the purple one, and it's somewhere in the background, in fact. And I'm gonna show you because, yeah, I'm gonna show you. There we go. In honor of the Queen's matching outfit, I suppose, we're going to have a little bit of a... It still works, of course, obviously. This is technology that was made to last. Nobody cares. I'm going to move to the next one, my friend, because this is... I told you I was taking you for a spin. No child is born a racist. It's taught, they say. Okay, there's a lot that we can say, we can unpack here. I'm just going to say the first thing that I'm going to say is the following. I agree, so stop teaching and telling the black child that this white girl is a white supremacist and an oppressor. How about we do that? So that would be my first comeback. Now, I noticed that whenever we talk about this, the idea of is racism taught or is racism innate? And here's what I'm going to say. A certain level of inward-outward group dynamic within our mentality is innate, is biological. Not necessarily racism per se, but the idea of you're not one of us, you look different, you could be an enemy. That kind of mentality has probably been with us ever since the Paleolithic, when we started grouping into tribal societies. It makes sense. That can evolve into racism, but in order to evolve into actual racism, then I do believe a certain level of pandering, and I don't even want to call it education, but like think of Hitler's youth, think of, well, even the USSR. I don't for a second think the communists weren't racists. I mean, it's not, that's to be, okay? I think it needs to be taught, and in fact, we see this these days, because in my opinion, it is only the highest level of propaganda that can bring a group to self-loathe, which is exactly what's happening with a lot of like blue-haired, white liberal, nose-ring women these days. They're white. I would imagine that the majority, if we had to quantify it, probably the majority of hatred towards white people comes from white liberal women and then from the Afrocentric community. So those groups within the black group, but then again, I want to specify a lot of those are African Americans, that end up hating white people because they are constantly taught, once again, the white man stole your history, the Romans were actually all black. So once again, yes, I agree that there is a certain level of teaching that is required in order to exasperate and reach the highest, or should we say the lowest common denominator of racism that one can reach. And if that is not taught, then I don't think one would naturally, you could prefer your own people, that's fine, everybody does it. Because you're more accustomed to it. I mean, black people usually enjoy being by themselves more. A lot of white people prefer to be, not even white, like Italians like to hang out with Italians, French like hanging out with French. And it's not really even a matter of discrimination. It's a matter of I'm accustomed to my own culture, language, and people. We think the same, we understand each other. And this is kind of, some people, I guess, like for me, I'm someone who's always been fascinated by foreigners. In fact, I married one. You know what I mean? So I'm always been a little bit on the side of, I'm so fascinated by people who are different from me, so I want to learn their language, I want to learn their culture. But then again, if you're someone who's like, no, for me, I've got nothing, I have no hatred for anyone, but I do prefer to be with people who I am more accustomed with. There's nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't involve racism. It's not racism, and that's what I'm going to leave it. But the problem is the people that say this, while I agree with the overall statement if taken in isolation, but within the context that we inhabit, all they're saying is white supremacy is bad, but if this kid hates this girl, it doesn't count as racism. I reject that. So while I agree with the concept, I imagine I probably disagree with whoever it is that made this picture. And that's my TED Talk. Talking about TED Talks, did you see the TED Talk where that lady was trying to excuse PDF files? Do you remember that? How people imagine the Renaissance. So we've got the Pope, and he says, no, please don't research anything. And then this I guess he's supposed to be the Reddit, I love science, 2016 r/atheist guy. I won't let you fool people. I guess he went back in time. But then the reality would be the Renaissance. Hey, bro, nice discoveries. Thanks. All right, it does require a little extra discussion. And it's a little exaggerated, but I would put it this way. I'm glad that finally, within the academic circles, they have stopped using the expression Dark Ages, even though it was epic. So do keep using it in fantasy. But in the Middle Ages, I think when you discuss the Middle Ages, particularly the High Medieval period all the way up to, whether it be early and High Medieval period, even all the way up to the late Middle Ages before the Renaissance. In fact, this is even Renaissance, which is insane that someone would think, of course, this is funny. It's a joke. I don't even know if someone thinks that. But people do think it of the Middle Ages. Maybe not Renaissance, but the Middle Ages. And the reality is that there was a lot of progress in that period. And this idea that the church would, they did do some persecution. I think it was political in nature, though. If you did do discoveries within the even the architecture, just look at the architecture. Look at the Duomo di Milano, Milan's cathedral. I don't even know how the heck they did that. It's insane. So when it comes to architecture, when it comes to medicine, medicine, of course, contextualized for the period, because they still had the whole thing about the humors and the white food and red food and green food and all that stuff. I get it. Whatever. But for that period, they definitely were not saying you're not allowed to research anything. It's just that it had a political flair to it, because the church had a massive political influence, particularly when they were competing with the Holy Roman Empire, because they were constantly trying to get power from each other, the Holy Roman Emperor and the papacy. And that is when the papacy was not fighting with itself, like when you had double pope, both excommunicating each other. Man, the stuff that happened in the Middle Ages is insane. So I'm not saying that like the Middle, sure, there was absolutely an attempt when it comes to the Holy See at controlling discoveries, but not necessarily preventing them because they wanted everyone to stay ignorant, because that's wrong. There was a lot of progress that happened in the Middle Ages. And when it comes to discoveries, in fact, look at the progress that they got for war stuff. Unbelievable. But even when they make the trebuchets, when they make the siege engines, well, they need to know mathematics. They need to know engineerings. Otherwise, you can't do that. So this kind of connects to, not to mention literacy. The reason why we have so much is because of monks. So, and even a lot of ancient Greek and ancient Roman text was preserved by the clergy and translated by the clergy and preserved by the clergy. So if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't know as much as we do when it comes to the classical antiquity. So there is that. Let's have a drink. The Holy Trinity of Popes. Yeah, that's right. What are they doing? They should have done 3, not 2. Am I screaming too much? I imagine that as an Italian, particularly from the South, clipping the mic is my default. If anything, I need to do something not to clip it because that's the default. Did she call them naps? No. But she was saying, well, we need to understand them because it's not their fault. So we need to be nice and we need to understand and not condemn. I'm like, you gotta be joking. What? I remember Tectone reacting to it, and I might try to react to it today, but it is very likely, because it's TED Talk, that it's gonna get copy claimed. In fact, I should send a message to Tectone. He messaged me the other day privately. We talked. He's a nice guy. maybe I should ask him, like, how do you do it? How do you ensure that Tech Talk doesn't copy claim your stuff? Because every time I've done anything TED Talk related, it was copy claimed for 37 days. Here's a little bit of behind the scenes for you. Why 37? Because they do the first claim, then I have to dispute it. They have 30 days. They do nothing for those 30 days. And so after on the very last hour of the 30th day, what they do is that then they double down. They could have doubled down any time, but they choose to double down at the very end because that way they can extend it and make it as obnoxious for you as possible. Then when they double down, that's the part where I threaten legal action, which I do every single time. And I win every single time because at that moment I am given 7 more days because basically I dispute it again, but this time I say, sue me, take me to court. And then they never do it, but they still utilize the entirety of the 7 day. And once the 7th day is finished, they either take me to court or they have to release the copy claim, which they always do. And I'm saying this because it happens with a lot of other companies. It's just that TED Talk is one of those that pushes for the full 37 days, which means I'll make nothing out of that video because by then it's defunct. Like already after 3 days, a video is old on the internet age when it comes to speed of the cyberspace. 37 days is like the Mesolithic. So they ensure that they do that so that, in theory, you won't have an incentive to continue. And I don't even know why, because it's really stupid. At the end of the day, you're getting free press, but I guess they're already so successful. There's probably millions involved that they don't even need the press from YouTubers the same way as, for instance, an indie studio. And so that's what they do. And they are awful. But we'll try it. Towards the end of the stream, we'll give it a shot. I'll see if I can show you clips, perhaps. I'll have to interrupt it a lot. See if that avoids triggering the automatic system. Baron says, I'm still on the fence about Tectone personally. Yeah, up to this point, I think there was no evidence. There was no evidence. And anyone who said for the grape allegations, there was no evidence. So without evidence, it's just the way the system is built, innocent until proven guilty. And I have to resist. I have to follow what the system is. That's how it works. Because otherwise, if we just work upon the basis of the court of public opinion, then it's just going to be a matter of whether you like the guy or not. And personally, I like the guy. But imagine that I was someone who didn't, either for politics or just for personal distaste, personality, for instance. Then what am I going to do? Like next time that this happens to someone on the other aisle of politics, I'm just going to point the finger and attack even though there is no evidence. I prefer to not do that because it makes me feel biased. And I prefer to be like, it doesn't matter who it is, and it doesn't matter what politics do they have. Is there compelling evidence? If the answer is no, innocent. That's my way to do it. And that's that. Let's talk about Tolkien, my friends. Boom. Okay, so allegedly, Tolkien rejected Disney, fearing they'd turn Middle-earth into a commercial fairy tale. What do you think, guys? What do you think of this? If true, I don't even know. I would have to kind of double check it. But if true, let's say hypothetically this is not clickbait and it's actually real. I say, yeah, totally. Bang on the money, bang on the money. Could you imagine if Lord of the Rings was in the hands of Disney, what it would have turned out to be now? Because here's the thing. In fact, I shouldn't even say now. Disney has always been an embarrassment. So, and it's really a shame because as a child, I have so many beautiful memories of the cartoons and stuff like that. But even if you look at it, Disney in the 50s was disgusting. Like the kind of actual racist stuff that they were pushing was unbelievable. And they were injecting propaganda. Political. Absolutely they were. It's not like it's nothing new, basically. But it's nothing new. Disney has always been an indoctrination machine. Maybe not as bad as it is today because now it's particularly strong, but Disney's always been involved in weird stuff. And when it was popular, I guess, to be racist, they were racist. Did you see how they represent black people in Disney early cartoons? It's discussed. So it's nothing new. It's just that now they do it with, oh yeah, look, let's make transgendered they, them, LGBT cartoons specifically designed for children under the age of prefrontal cortex. But then again, it's still the same. So Disney's freaking evil. So and it's not like you don't even have to. The proof is what they did. If you watched my video about it, I posted it a while ago. So if you're a new subscriber and whatnot, you might not know this, but Disney actually did a lawsuit against this family that ate at one of their restaurants. And they gave the family, the wife, had a terrible allergy, and they said it. But they still fed her stuff, and that she died out of it. And Disney was like, "No, I'm gonna sue you." What? What? Disney's disgusting. So Bro was right. We call him Bro, and I think it's nice. I think it's nice to call him Bro. Yeah, this is another one that I think needs a little bit of reality. Yeah, Disney's money driven. You're absolutely right, Baron, and it will follow any ideology. It doesn't matter. Disney would follow anything. It's not even a matter of no, but they're trying to no. They follow anything. They don't care as long as there is money involved. Then they don't care. Next, thank you, Perifetes. Good to have you here, by the way, on Rumble. I thought the Romans were all gay. Is that not why they fell? Goodness gracious. Yeah, all of them. In fact, they didn't reproduce. We were all made in magically. We were all made magically. My ancestors and whatnot. It was magic. Because, they were gay. So, there's that. Or I guess they could force it just for reproductive meanings. Man, I wouldn't wish that to anyone, to be honest, if you watch Caligula, you might think so. Yeah, I mean, it's a few emperors. I do believe that they were either same-sex attracted, like homosexuals, or bi. Yeah, totally. I mean, there's no reason not to believe that.